Have you ever wondered why certain people enter your life right when you're at your weakest, while others seem to leave without a word? Some encounters warm your heart with just a single glance, and some people leave behind a quiet ache that lingers for years. But what if every encounter holds a deeper reason? What if no one comes into your life by accident? In the quietest moments, when the noise of the world fades, we begin to sense a subtle truth. Every person who appears is like a message from karma, a mirror reflecting your inner world. Whether they bring joy, pain, comfort, or awakening, each one is guiding you gently or painfully back to yourself. And from that mindful awareness, something shifts. You realize that no one in your life was ever the wrong person or came at the wrong time. Every soul is a living lesson. So, what are those lessons? Let's begin with the first. 1. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work or life's demands. It comes from deep within, from memories that haven't healed, from people who have hurt you and whom you still haven't let go. You may no longer see them, but they're still there. In your heavy breath, in the restless nights, in the guarded way you now look at life. Many people think forgiveness is something you do for someone else. That forgiving is letting them off the hook, dismissing their mistake, maybe even doing them a favor. But in the light of Buddhist wisdom, forgiveness means something else entirely. Forgiveness is something you do to free yourself from the prison of pain. There's an old image from the Buddha's teachings that's often shared. Holding on to anger is like clutching a burning coal, hoping to one day throw it at someone else. But the one who gets burned first is you. Anger, resentment, bitterness. These emotions may feel powerful at first, like they give you some control over the hurt, but slowly they drain you. They weigh down your heart. They close you off from trust, from love, from ease. You might ask, but what if they really hurt me? What if they never apologized? Why should I forgive them? Here's the thing. Forgiveness doesn't mean denying what happened. It doesn't mean excusing it. It doesn't mean forgetting the pain. It means looking directly at the wound without letting it define or control you anymore. Forgiveness is standing in front of that old memory and no longer allowing it to blur your present. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught hatred does not cease by hatred. Hatred ceases only by love. This is an eternal law. But this kind of love isn't soft or sentimental. It's the strength of a soul that's lived, endured, and grown. It's the deep realization that clinging to anger doesn't hurt them more. It only robs you of your peace. Maybe you too have spent years locked in that inner room, a space where you hold on to pain like it's proof that justice is still alive. But suffering is never justice. Suffering is just suffering, and it steals from you the peaceful years you could have had. In Buddhism, forgiveness always walks hand in hand with wisdom. To forgive doesn't mean letting someone back into your life. It doesn't mean smiling and pretending it never happened. Forgiveness is setting the burden down while still honoring your boundaries. Compassion is not blind. True compassion is discerning. Like a traveler walking a rocky road, They learn to avoid sharp stones, not step on them, and say, I shouldn't feel pain if I'm compassionate. Sometimes, forgiveness means stepping back. It means walking away. It means saying, I don't hate you, but I also won't let you keep hurting me. Some people fear that forgiveness makes them weak. But the truth is, forgiveness is an act of strength. It belongs to those who are brave enough to stop letting the past pull them around like a puppet, to those who choose freedom over holding on. Forgiveness doesn't happen in a single moment. It's a path. Every time you sit in meditation, every time you breathe through a memory, every time you choose peace over retaliation, that is forgiveness in motion. One day, you'll wake up and realize you're not tense when you think about them anymore. You're not bitter when the past comes up. And maybe you'll smile. Not because they deserve your smile, but because you deserve your peace. You don't have to forgive today, but maybe you can begin by wanting to. Then take your time. No one can force you to reconcile with the one who hurt you. But you can begin to reconcile with yourself. And that might be the most important step of all. So, if you're still carrying something that hurts, ask yourself, how many more years do I want to carry this pain just to prove I was right? And if your answer is, I'm tired, then maybe you're ready to begin the path of forgiveness, the quiet journey home to the peace you've always deserved. 2. Toxic people come to awaken you, not to stay. Have you ever met someone who entered your life like a storm? At first, they might seem captivating, with how they care, how they listen, or simply how familiar they feel. But over time, you begin to feel like a stranger to yourself. You smile less. You're more tired. You're constantly explaining, constantly apologizing. Slowly, you stop recognizing the person you used to be. It's hard to admit, but some people don't come into your life to love you. They come to awaken something that's been asleep inside you. They are not the reward. They are the test. And sometimes it's a test you'll repeat until you finally learn not to sit in that same classroom anymore. In Buddhist teaching, every being is a form of karmic connection, and every connection carries a purpose. No one enters your life by accident. They're the fruit of past seeds and a chance to plant new ones with awareness. Toxic people rarely show up wearing a devil's mask. They don't yell, I'm here to hurt you. Most often, they arrive gently, as someone who just needs help, as someone just being honest, or someone who says, I only tell you this because I care. But bit by bit, they make you question your own feelings. When you're sad, they say you're too sensitive. When you react, they say you're negative. When you're silent, they take it as agreement. You don't need them to destroy your life to know they're dangerous. All you need is to observe yourself after each interaction. Does your heart feel heavier? Is your confidence dimmed? Is your mind unsettled? And the truth is, most of us don't leave toxic people right away. Not because we don't know, but because there's still a tender part of us that longs to be loved, to be accepted, to feel worthy in someone else's eyes. And it's that unhealed crack, that hidden wound, that keeps us holding on. There's an old Zen saying, if someone hits you with a stick, do you blame the stick, or do you ask why you kept standing there? It sounds harsh, but it's actually a call to look inward, to reclaim your power. The awakening doesn't come when they change. It comes when you realize you deserve better. A toxic person cannot stay unless you keep the door open. And closing that door is not a lack of compassion. In fact, it's the deepest act of compassion you can offer yourself. Because compassion doesn't mean everyone gets access to your life. Compassion means wishing all beings well, including yourself. When you set boundaries, you're not saying I hate you. You're saying I love myself enough not to allow this anymore. And here's something important to remember. A toxic person is not a demon. They're hurting too. They are a fellow being on their own path. But you don't have to sacrifice your peace to walk their journey with them. You are not here to heal someone else's karma by suffering through it. You are responsible for your own energy. And sometimes the lesson they bring is not about loving difficult people, but about loving yourself enough to let go the ones who aren't meant for your soul. You might have believed if I'm just more patient, they'll change. But the truth is, if you stay too long in pain, that pain becomes normal. And that's not compassion. That's losing yourself. So let me say this to you from the bottom of my heart. You don't need to try harder. If a relationship makes you feel smaller each day, that's not love. That's a signal, a wake-up call. The Buddha once taught, not all suffering can be avoided, but some suffering is chosen over and over again. You don't need to carry burdens that aren't yours. You don't need to prove your worth to someone unwilling to see it. And you don't need to live in fear just because you're afraid of drawing a line. If you're in a connection that drains your spirit, sit quietly with yourself and ask, what am I supposed to learn here? What part of me have I forgotten? Do I still believe I deserve something better? Remember this, once you learn the lesson, you don't have to stay in the classroom. You can thank them silently and walk away, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve freedom. And real freedom begins the moment you stop clinging to those who only came to wake you up, not walk beside you forever. 3. Not every act of kindness comes at the right time. Have you ever seen someone struggling in pain and disappointment or trapped in a poor decision, and your whole heart just wanted to do one thing? Step in, pull them out, save them. You saw the solution. You saw a future they couldn't see, and you thought, if I don't help now, they might fall apart. Your kindness trembled with compassion. You wanted to be their anchor, their guide, their savior. But then, things didn't go as planned. They rejected your advice. They turned away. They got angry. Or worse, they clung to you and later blamed you when things didn't work out. And now you feel exhausted, confused. How could something you gave with so much love lead to such hurt? Pause for a moment. Look deeper, not through your emotions, but with mindfulness. Because maybe, just maybe, your kindness came too soon. In Buddhism, there's a profound principle. No one can walk the path of liberation for another. Every soul must walk its own karmic journey. And that journey cannot be rushed. It must unfold through suffering, through learning, through inner awakening. You may love someone deeply, but if they're not yet ready to face their own wounds, every word of advice is just an echo in the desert. If you pull them out before they've learned what they need to learn, you're interfering with their karma. And sometimes that interference creates chaos for both of you. There's a simple old story. Imagine a butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon. Watching it fight, you feel sympathy. So you gently cut the cocoon to help it out. But what you didn't realize is the struggle is what strengthens its wings. By cutting it open, you interrupted its natural growth. Yes, the butterfly came out, but with weak wings, unable to fly. The same is true for people. Some pain must be walked through. Some mistakes must be seen for oneself. Some breakdowns must be felt deeply so they can finally see clearly. Your kindness, if it comes too early, might become a crutch that keeps them from ever standing on their own. Compassion isn't about rushing in to rescue. True compassion is knowing when to simply be still, to be present without judgment, without attachment, without interference. There's a story from the Buddha's life. One day, a troubled man came to him. He was angry, confused, demanding answers. The Buddha simply sat in silence listening, offering no advice. Finally, the man snapped, "Why won't you help me? Aren't you supposed to say something?" The Buddha replied gently, "If the soil is not ready, even the best seed will not grow. You are not the sun that can warm every seed in every season. There will be people you love deeply but cannot save. There will be souls you must accompany in silence. Moments when your quiet presence, your steady eyes, your calm breath are more healing than any words." Why? Because kindness only has true power when it meets the right moment, the right readiness, and the soul's real need. If someone once rejected your love or care, don't take it personally. They didn't reject you. They rejected what they weren't yet ready to receive. The Buddha once said, "A person who doesn't know they're thirsty won't value water. But when the thirst is ripe, even a single drop becomes salvation." You don't have to forget yourself trying to be water for everyone. You need mindfulness to know when to wait. Wait for the person to be ready. Wait for the right karma to ripen. Wait until your kindness becomes a light, not a burden. Remember this. Helping others is not an instant obligation. It is a sacred spiritual act, one that requires both love and wisdom. When you help someone rise above their suffering, you're stepping into a journey that's uniquely theirs. And to do it well, you must act with the grace of a Zen master. No pushing, no grabbing, no controlling. Just presence, just listening, just reaching out when they are finally ready to reach back. If you're feeling tired from trying to carry too many people, please set the burden down. You were not born to carry everyone's karma. You were born to live your role fully awake, loving and clear, but not lost in the identity of the Savior. And one final thing I want to leave with you, silence, when offered at the right time, is often the highest form of compassion. And the most beautiful help we can offer is the faith that they will find their own way in their own time. If these words made you think of someone in your life, maybe it's time to take one step back, not to abandon them, but to let them grow in the rhythm of their own becoming. And in the meantime, just keep your heart warm and wait. Like the sun waits for the flower to bloom without rushing. Without regret, simply present. 4. Loneliness. or a doorway back to yourself. Maybe you've felt it before. A day moves slowly. No messages, no plans, no one waiting for you, no shoulder to lean on. You hear the TV playing in the next room, cars driving by outside. But inside, there's a quiet stillness with no name. And you sigh to yourself, I just feel so lonely. That word, lonely, it carries weight, doesn't it? Like a silent cut that doesn't bleed, but still aches. It makes you feel unseen, uncared for, like you no longer matter. But let me offer you another way to look at it. What if you're not actually lonely? What if you're being invited back to yourself? In the Buddhist path, solitude is not sadness. It's a gift, a rare moment when the outside noise quiets down so you can finally hear the whisper within. You've spent so much of your life running, trying to please others, hold on to relationships, make sure you're not left behind, trying to be strong, funny, helpful, kind, just to feel like you're not forgotten. But in all that running, maybe you lost touch with you. Maybe you filled the empty spaces in your heart with other people, and when they left, you didn't know who you were without them. Buddha spent many years alone in forests and caves beneath trees, not because he feared the world, but because in silence, wisdom can rise. Only in stillness can we gather the courage to look into ourselves without flinching. Now you might say, but I'm not a monk. I'm just an ordinary person. But you have a heart, and that heart, just like the Buddha's, longs for truth, peace, and wholeness. And sometimes the shortest path to wholeness is the quiet road of being alone. So try this. Sit down, one quiet afternoon. No phone, no TV, no social media. Just you with yourself. Can you hear it? At first, it might feel like emptiness, the soft whisper of sadness. But if you stay, if you're patient, you'll begin to hear more. A small dream you once buried, an old wound asking to be held, a gentle voice inside that's long been drowned out by the noise of others. And in that moment, you are no longer lonely. You are finally home. In Buddhism, there's a concept called Pure Land. Many think it's a place we reach after death. But to the awakened Pure Land is here it's any moment when the mind rests, when you sit alone in a quiet room and your heart is no longer chasing after anyone. Solitude, when paired with mindfulness, becomes a sacred space. You don't need to leave the world. Just a few minutes a day, choose to come back to yourself. Sit in silence. Breathe. Observe. Watch your own mind like an old friend returning after a long journey, and you'll find there's someone who's been waiting for you all along. That someone is you. You don't need a crowd to be seen. You don't need someone else to prove your worth. You just need to be fully present with yourself. So, if today you're feeling a little lost, remember, no one else can truly fill the emptiness within you except you. And no one can take away your light unless you forget that it's there. Loneliness through the lens of the Dharma is not absence. It's an invitation, a sacred bell, a quiet pause asking you to remember, you are enough. You are whole. You are the home you've been searching for. So, if you're sitting alone today and your heart feels quiet, take a deep breath. And instead of asking, "Why am I lonely?" try asking, "How long has it been since I came home to myself?" Because maybe, just maybe, loneliness is not the distance between you and others, but the path that brings you closer to you. Thank you for listening. And if these words touch something tender in your heart, please share them. Not because you're lonely, but because you're learning how to be fully present. And that is a sacred journey. 5. The people who enter and leave your life are never random. Have you ever wondered why someone walked into your life right when you were lost? Why someone you loved so deeply walked away just when you thought they'd stay forever? You might call it coincidence, fate, destiny. But through the lens of Buddhist wisdom, nothing is truly random. Every person who crosses your path, whether it's a glance, a short conversation, or a long, winding relationship, appears as part of your karmic unfolding. And every soul carries a lesson. Some arrive to lift you up. They help you believe again in kindness, in goodness, in love. They show up when you're in need of a hand to hold a soft word, a moment of hope. They are like a cool breeze in the heat of summer, gentle healing and calm. Others come like a bell ringing through silence. They challenge you, push your buttons, stir the parts of you you've tried to ignore. They make you face the anger you still carry, the expectations still unmet, the fears that still grip you. And through them, you finally begin the inward journey, to sit with yourself, to see the wounds, to begin the real healing. Then, there are those who come to teach you the hardest lesson of all, how to let go. There are people you love with all your heart, but the more you cling to them, the more you hurt. Not because you're unworthy, but because their role in your story has already been fulfilled. They came to open a door within you, but they were never meant to stay. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha said, "Just as leaves fall from the branch, so too do people, and karmic bonds fall away when the time is right." No one holds on to autumn forever. It sounds bittersweet, doesn't it? But in truth, that's where your freedom begins. When you realize that every arrival has meaning and every departure is part of the process, you stop asking, "Why did they leave me?" And you start asking, "What did I learn from their presence?" That one question can shift the way you see your entire life. Think about it. Wasn't there someone who showed up just when you were about to break? A long-lost friend who called at the exact moment you needed them. A stranger who smiled when you were holding back tears. A passing comment that somehow saved an entire year's worth of pain. That's not random. That's karmic grace blooming in your life. And yes, there are those who hurt you deeply. But because of them, you learn to rise. You learn to love yourself. You stop placing your worth in someone else's hands. Each person is a puzzle piece in the grand unfolding of your life. And you are a piece in theirs too. You're not a victim of your encounters. You're walking through them with either awareness or ignorance. When you're aware, you stop blaming. You stop resenting those who left. You stop longing for those who stayed. Instead, You feel grateful for their arrival and peaceful for their leaving. I know it's easier said than done. The human heart is tender. We want to hold on to what's beautiful, but it's in the letting go that true freedom begins. It's in mindfulness that you begin to see the deeper purpose behind every encounter, no matter how long or short. You don't need everyone to stay in order to prove you're valuable. Those who leave don't take anything from you. Those who stay don't complete you. Only you, when you learn from each encounter, are truly growing. In a Dharma talk, the Buddha once said, "The wise are not fooled by fleeting feelings. They see the full flow of cause and effect and rest their hearts in peace amidst the changing tides." You may hurt, but you can still be at peace. You may feel sorrow, but you don't need to carry bitterness, because all of it, every meeting, every goodbye, is leading you towards something deeper, spiritual maturity. So if today your heart is remembering someone who once stood beside you and is now gone, place your hand gently over your heart, take a deep breath, and whisper in the silence, "Thank you for coming. Thank you for teaching me what I needed to learn. And if our time has ended, I let you go with gratitude, because no one enters your life by accident, and you're not listening to this by accident either. Perhaps right now, this is the moment you needed to remember you are growing because of every soul who ever walked with you. Thank you for listening. And if this message touched even a small part of your heart, please share it, because someone else out there might need to be reminded. Life never gets the timing or the person wrong. The only question is, are you ready to receive the lesson? 6. Being too kind can be a form of self-betrayal. There's a certain kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work or from age. It comes from being endlessly kind. Have you ever felt that way? When you're always the one who listens, the one who stays, the one who steps back, the one who says yes, until one day you quietly disappear from your own life. Most people don't realize it, but kindness, when not guided by wisdom, can become a double-edged sword. It turns you into someone everybody needs, but no one truly sees. You become a professional endurer in other people's lives. You give, not because you have extra, but because you're afraid no one will stay if you stop. And just like that, you begin to betray yourself, quietly, slowly, so gently that not even you notice. In Buddhism, compassion and wisdom always go hand in hand. The Buddha never asked us to be blindly kind. He taught that compassion is not about pleasing everyone. It's about loving wisely without losing mindfulness. A truly compassionate person can still say no when needed. They can hold someone in love without letting that love crush their own soul. Because real compassion doesn't drain you. It nourishes you. It makes you stronger, clearer, more grounded, never faded. Ask yourself gently, why do I always end up with the short end of the stick? Why do I feel guilty for setting boundaries? Why do I feel like I must keep doing something just to keep the peace? It's because somewhere along the way, you were taught that to be kind, you must always say yes. That to love means never letting others down. That your worth is tied to how useful you are to someone else. But that is not compassion. That is fear, disguised in the costume of kindness. Even a cherry blossom, as beautiful as it is, only blooms when it's time. It doesn't bloom year-round just to please someone else. It rests. It folds in. It gathers life force. So when the season is right, it blossoms in full splendor. And you are the same. You were not born to bloom all year for others. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to live honestly, even if it disappoints someone. I know you want to preserve relationships. You don't want to hurt anyone. But think about it. If you give so much that you become empty, are you still truly there in that relationship? In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha taught us to observe the body, the feelings, the mind, and the nature of things. It means before doing anything, pause and look within. Do you feel tired? Do you feel forced? Do you feel a subtle discomfort, even when helping? If so, maybe it's time to stop. Not because you no longer care, but because you're learning to care without losing yourself. People often say, giving is happiness. But if you've given so much that there's nothing left, that's no longer happiness. That's erosion. You don't need to be the good one in everyone's eyes. You just need to be kind to yourself first. When you live in alignment with your true self, you give without regret. You love without clinging. You help without burning out. So, if your soul feels weary from being too kind for too long, I invite you to pause. Not to turn away from the world, but to turn back toward yourself. Ask your heart, am I losing myself while trying to keep others comfortable? Am I giving to be loved, or because I already feel full inside? And if the answer makes you go quiet, maybe that's your new beginning. The beginning of being kind without disappearing. Because sometimes, the greatest act of love is to say, I need to rest. I need to keep a little energy for myself. And that doesn't make me a bad person. You don't have to keep pushing. You just have to be real. And that's enough. Thank you for listening. If this touched your heart, I invite you to share something in the comments. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to finally begin loving themselves today. 7. Silence. The strength of an awakened soul. There are days when life just feels too loud. You turn on the news and it's chaos. You pick up your phone and you're pulled into a stream of opinions, emotions, arguments. You step outside and everything seems to be moving too fast. Everyone's talking. Everyone's reacting. Everyone's rushing to say something about everything. And you feel tired, not because you don't care, but because something deep within you is quietly aching to return to the stillness in your heart. When the world becomes too noisy, most people react on autopilot, defending, explaining, worrying, arguing. But an awakened soul responds differently. They don't react by impulse. They respond from silence. They breathe before they speak. They observe before they decide. They pause even when the world is demanding a response. Have you noticed? The modern world doesn't teach you how to be silent. It teaches you to reply quickly, to always be available, to prove your worth through words. It makes you believe that if you don't speak up, you'll be left behind. But the truth is, some things can only be seen clearly in silence. In Buddhism, silence is not avoidance. It's wisdom. It's the quiet power of someone who knows who they are and doesn't need to be shaken by external noise. The Buddha was once asked countless questions by king's scholars, even those who tried to trap him. And sometimes, he didn't answer. Not because he didn't know the answer, but because the question didn't come from a mind ready to learn. And any answer would have only created more noise, not more awareness. Maybe you've been in that space too. Someone said something untrue about you. An argument was waiting for your reaction. A moment called for you to respond right away, and you felt the urge to speak up, to defend, to explain. But if you had paused, if you had just taken a breath, you might have realized not everything is worth losing your peace over. Choosing not to react isn't weakness. It's strength, the kind of strength that doesn't let fleeting emotions take the wheel. It's the clarity that keeps you from letting anger dictate your words. It's the courage to not let fear control your actions. Do you know why still water can reflect the sky? Because it's calm, undisturbed, unmoved. The same goes for your mind. Only in stillness can you truly see what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what's influencing you. If you meditate regularly, you'll start to notice something beautiful. When your mind is still, you no longer need answers from the outside. You no longer need validation. You don't even need explanations to know whether you're right or wrong, because in that quiet space, you can hear your own voice. Not the loud one, but the soft one like wind brushing through the leaves. That's the voice that guides you home. And when you follow it, you're no longer pulled into temporary arguments. You don't need to win anymore. You just need to protect your peace. In one sutra, the Buddha said, "A wise person, even when insulted, is like a rock, unmoved in the storm." This isn't to say you should stay silent all the time. There are moments when you should speak. But let your words come from clarity, not anger. Let your actions be rooted in understanding, not panic. Let your presence speak louder than your explanations. There is a sacred dignity in silence. Not pride, but full presence. When you sit in stillness and listen to the outer world and your inner world, you stop being swept away. You're standing in the river of life, but you are not being carried by the current. So, if you're going through a chaotic season in work and family, or in your own heart, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm only inviting you to sit, just sit, alone, in silence. You don't need to figure everything out. Just breathe and listen. You may be surprised to find that the answer you've been chasing all this time was always there, just waiting for you to be still enough to notice. Silence, when lived fully, doesn't make you weaker. It makes you stronger, more rooted, and more certain of who you truly want to be. 8. No lesson is ever wasted unless we refuse to learn. Have you ever sat alone and asked yourself, why did I have to meet that person? Why did this have to happen to me? Maybe it was a heartbreaking breakup. Maybe someone betrayed you, someone you never imagined could. Maybe you poured your whole heart into something, and it still failed. Or maybe it's just that feeling, the hollow ache of being abandoned by the very world you once trusted. In moments like those, it's not just pain we feel. It's resentment. It's the ache of unfairness. It's the wish to rewind time, or at least to understand why. But in the light of Buddhist wisdom, every experience, no matter how painful, carries an invitation. An invitation to look within. And the real question isn't, why did this happen to me? It's, what am I being asked to learn here? Because suffering at its core is not punishment. It's a teacher. Not a gentle one, but an honest one. A teacher that doesn't pamper us, but pushes us toward our edge, just so we can see how strong we really are. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, just as a goldsmith refines gold, heating, hammering, and polishing, so must the mind be tested and refined to shine brightly. You may not get to choose what life throws at you, but you always get to choose. Will I learn, or will I stay stuck? Will I grow, or just keep circling the same pain? Some people go through heartbreak once and lose all faith in love. Others go through the same pain but come out softer, wiser, stronger. They learn to love with boundaries, to say no without guilt, to hear their own voice amid the noise, to not repeat the same lesson twice. Same pain, different direction. The difference isn't in the situation, it's in the mindset we meet it with. A mindful person doesn't ask, why am I suffering? They ask, what is this teaching me? They don't run from pain, they observe it. They don't push it away. They sit with it like you would with a guest who has something important to say before they leave. And when we do that, something changes. Pain, when seen through the eyes of mindfulness, becomes wisdom. A wound, when listened to with compassion, becomes the gateway to healing. I know. Some wounds run deep. Some losses feel like they'll break you. But then time passes, and you realize you're no longer the same. You speak differently. You pause before reacting. You've learned your limits. And you didn't learn that from a book. You learned it from your broken heart. In Buddhism, that's what we call living Dharma. Dharma isn't just written in scripture. It's what's happening right now in your life. Dharma is when life wounds you, and you still choose to be kind. Dharma is when you lose everything and find yourself. There's a powerful line in the Anguttara Nikaya. Nothing happens without planting a seed. Everything that happens to you comes with a seed. And you are the one who decides, will I plant it in understanding or throw it away in bitterness? I'm not telling you to fake optimism. No one's asking you to say I'm okay when you're clearly not. But I'm inviting you to sit with yourself, place your hand on your heart, and ask, what in me is asking to be healed? What have I learned about myself? Through all this, you can write it out. You can meditate on it, or simply just stop running for a while, because you don't need to heal everything in a day. You just need to choose to learn, to open, to not let old wounds become new walls that separate you from life. If you're in a hard moment right now, I'm not here to say, be strong. I'm just here to remind you, you are in the middle of a lesson, and no lesson is ever wasted. If you choose to learn, no experience is ever wrong. If you meet it with mindfulness, you don't have to understand it all right now. You just have to keep the faith that everything, even the hardest things, can become part of your path. 9. Coincidence is just another word for ripened karma. Maybe you've met someone in a way that felt strange. No plans, no appointments, no clear reason. They showed up like a breeze on a very ordinary day. A glance in a coffee shop, a short conversation between strangers, a sentence spoken at the exact moment you were falling apart. And then, they were gone. You never saw them again. No phone number, no label for what that was. But deep down, you knew it wasn't random. In Buddhism, we call it karmic connection. And there's something I want you to remember. What you call coincidence is just karma reaching its full bloom. In life, you'll meet many people, but not all of them leave a mark. Some pass by, some stay for years, and some appear for only a moment, but forever change how you see. Who are they? Maybe it's a child who made you smile on an empty day. Maybe it's an old friend who called just as you were about to give up. Maybe it's a stranger who unknowingly said the one thing you most needed to hear. You think they came by chance? No. They arrived because something inside you was ready to awaken. In the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha once said, "All beings have Buddha nature, but only when the causes and conditions are right will that nature be revealed." So people don't show up to complete you. They come to knock on a door inside you, a door you may have forgotten existed. Some arrive to remind you that you can still love. Some come to teach you how to say no. Some will break your heart, but through that, you begin learning how to heal from within. You see, not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. But whether they stay or not isn't the point. The real question is, what did they leave within you? The right person doesn't arrive to hold you. They come so you can learn to hold yourself, not to stay by your side forever, but to awaken something in you that has been asleep too long. Some encounters are like mirrors. They reflect back what you haven't yet seen. A fear, a dream, a wound, a quiet longing for awakening. And once you see it, they leave. No goodbye, no explanation. Because they weren't meant to stay. They came to help you remember something about yourself. Just like in Zen, a teacher doesn't give you anything. They simply help you remove what's in the way, so you can return to what has always been there. Maybe someone comes to mind right now. Someone who hurt you, but through that pain, you learned how to let go. Someone who made you cry, but those tears began your healing. Someone you couldn't hold on to, but through their leaving, you discovered your strength. That wasn't an accident. That was karma fully ripened. And when karma ripens, it brings exactly who you need at exactly the right time. The Buddha never taught us to cling to everyone. He taught us to learn from everyone. A falling leaf is karma with the earth. A rain shower is karma with a seed. A person leaving is also part of karma fulfilled. You don't need to grasp. You only need to look at each encounter and ask, what did I learn from this person? What version of myself emerged after they left? And if you can answer those, you no longer need them to stay, because you've already kept what matters most, awakening. If today you find yourself mourning a relationship that ended, if you're still wondering why someone who once meant so much simply walked out of your life, then maybe try changing the question. Instead of asking, "Why did they leave?" ask, "What did they come to teach me?" You may realize the most painful thing might also be the most beautiful. Because in every seemingly random meeting, there is a message. A message karma wants you to understand. And when you finally do, you can smile and let them go. No anger, no grasping, no lingering pain. Just gratitude. Gratitude that they came just when your soul needed to wake up. Life is not a string of meaningless accidents. Every person you meet, every experience you go through, whether soft or stormy, is part of a sacred map unfolding. You are not walking alone. You are walking the path of awakening, one lesson, one moment, one return to yourself at a time. If something in this video spoke to you like a whisper, a comfort, or simply the feeling of being understood, then maybe, just maybe, you were listening with your heart. I invite you to keep walking this path with us. Subscribe to Buddhism Seeds. Like this video. If it brought you value, share it with someone who might need a little light today, and leave a comment below so we, the quietly awakening ones, can find each other in this gentle space of understanding. Thank you for being here, and know this wasn't a coincidence.